Testing. Hey, it works. God, it's embarrassing. Okay, that is really embarrassing. Okay. All right, excellent. You're welcome. You're welcome. So after class, just leave this. Just put it, take it off, put it down. Okay, cool. All right. God, that's weird. Awesome. He's not coming today, man. It's my last day of the month for a month. And for yours, a lot of you guys are going back, right? That's it, man. Ooh, fun. Oh, that looks horrible. There. Hello and welcome. Hi again. Good evening. Good evening. How you guys doing? Good, good, good. Whew. Well, this will be. I will be after this class. I mean, after today, I will be taking a 1 month break. I'm coming back in September, but I will not be here for your next class. If you're coming to the next class, I'm going home for like a month, back to Boston. It's warmer. I mean, it's cooler. Actually, no, right now it's about the same. Actually, the temperature is about the same. So yeah, if you think it's hot here, it's also hot in Boston. Damn. Well, wish me luck. Okay, so once again, welcome to the IELTS listening speaking class. We're gonna start with listening. Listening. Okay. So what have you guys been doing to improve your listening during the week when you're not in this class? Anything. Listening to anything in English, at home, elsewhere, anywhere. What have you guys been doing? Hey, that's good. That's good. What TV show are you watching now? Sherlock. Hey, Benedict Cumberbatch. That's why I got it. Totally. Huh. Good, good, good. And a British accent. So, anyone else? What are you guys doing in your free time? Studying English, listening, for fun, anything? It's really kind of strange. Anyways, yeah. So, I feel like a robot. So yeah, what are you guys doing to improve your listening? Because listening takes practice. If your listening needs work, you need to work on it. But it does not have to be boring, right? It does not have to feel like work because there's so much stuff in English that you can listen to. Of course, if you're preparing for the IELTS and you need to get better really fast, you should be listening to things like the IELTS listening, right? But if you want to improve naturally and in a lasting way, in a way that will kind of help you for your future, listening to things that you find interesting is the best way. Absolutely, in English, of course, right? So yeah, what are you guys doing for fun and to improve your English listening? What are you doing at home to improve your English listening? Anything? English songs, YouTube. Okay, think of something. That's homework. That's homework. Okay, this week you're gonna listen to something in English. Anybody? What are you guys doing for English listening? Good. What are you watching now? What is it? Oh, LAPD. Hey, excellent, excellent. Good, good. Are you guys doing anything more serious, like watching any kind of, I don't know, lectures, university lectures in English for fun? Good, good, because that's horribly boring. But you should be. Anyways, so again, this is listening, test 3. I'm going to see if it works pretty well. All right, what can you tell me about the IELTS listening section? Review. You guys, a lot of you guys should know this by now. I want someone new to tell me something that you know about the IELTS listening section. One fun fact. Any fun fact about the IELTS listening? What do you know about the IELTS listening? Correct. There are 4 sections. Good. Anything else? Ten questions per section. If you do the math, that is 40 questions. Good. Don't worry. IELTS has no math section. Good. So, thankfully. Anything else you know about the IELTS listening? Yes, it is. Section 1 is the easiest. I mean, that's kind of a qualitative thing, but generally, people think of it as the easiest. Good. Anything else you know about the IELTS listening? What's that? Yes, it only gets played once. You only have one chance at it. Ooh, right? So, that is an important fact. Actually, they're all important facts. Anything else you know about the IELTS listening? Anything else? Sorry, this is a surprise. Name one thing you know about the IELTS listening section. Even if they said it before, any kind of interesting fact about the IELTS listening. Yes, there are. Okay, good. We knew that. Excellent. Anything else we know about IELTS listening? Okay, the last part is the most important part for you. Why do you think so? I mean, they are all equal, right? Have the same. Every question is equal to 1 point, right? But the section 4 is the most important for you because you want a really high score. Good. Yeah, because again, it gets harder and harder. Try not to miss in the beginning, right? So one of the things you're trying to do is not get any of the first sections wrong, right? If you want the highest possible score, definitely be really careful on the first section. Kind of like a gift. It's like, hey, this shouldn't be that hard. It's tricky, but not that hard, so don't miss them. Section 4 requires a lot more skill. Good. Anything else? Anything else you need to know? Any helpful tips to do well on the IELTS listening? You have no idea. Okay, that's why you're here. Good. I'm glad you came. Excellent. Anything else? Anything else you need to know about the IELTS listening? Well, one of the things, right, and we've been doing this again and then again, is you have time to look at it, right? You have time to look at it quickly, right? It seems like a long time, but they tell you to, you have time to check questions, for example, 1 to 5, right? And so they say, take some time to check questions 1 to 5. That's helpful. Because, I mean, you can, during that time, you can just be looking at nothing, right? You could just be going, oh my God, I'm so nervous. Or you could be looking at questions 1 to 5. And when you look at them, you have to think about it in a certain way, right? Some people just look at it and read it and whatever. But that's not going to be as helpful as looking at it and trying to find fairly important information. What are you trying to find out when you're looking at these questions? On any of the sections. Again, one of the important things is that it will only be played once. So do not lose your place. Do not go, oh my God, I have no idea what question we're on. Right? Also, when they begin the recording, they're going to tell you what the recording is about. Right? The more you know, or the more you guess about this recording, the content, what it's about, who's talking, right? And about what, and what kind of information they're going to be talking about, the better you will do. Right? If you know what to expect, if you're really focused and you know what's coming up, you will do better. You'll do better. Right? Later on, we're going to talk about things like spelling. Because really, sometimes people go, oh my God, what's the point? Because I spelled something wrong. God, don't do that. Please don't do that. Because it would have been one point that you would have gotten, but you lost. So, okay, when we look at this, it's going to sound like this. First thing is, you're going to be looking at your test booklet, and then they're going to play the audio, which sounds like this.
Cambridge IELTS 9 by University of Cambridge ESOL Examinations. Published by Cambridge University Press.
Oh, you're probably not going to be.
This recording is copyright.
Not this part.
CD 2.
Okay, it doesn't sound like that yet.
Test 3. You will hear a number of different recordings, and you will have to answer questions on what you hear. There will be time for you to read the instructions and questions, and you will have a chance to check your work. All the recordings will be played once only. The test is in 4 sections. At the end of the test, you will be given 10 minutes to transfer your answers to an answer sheet.
Ooh, there's another good fact, right? At the end of the recording, you will have 10 minutes to transfer your answers to the answer sheet. Which means what? They just told you that, but what do you think is going to happen? You've got a test booklet, and then you've got an answer sheet, right, where you're going to be writing your answers down. Right? 10 minutes is enough, right? It's enough time. It's longer than you think, right? But during that time, right, if you write really quickly in your test booklet, you can write whatever you want in your test booklet. That's good, right? Because if you write really quickly and you think, oh man, I wrote, God, I can read this. I can read my writing, but nobody else can read my writing. That's fine. That's fine. Don't take the time to write really nicely. As long as you can read your own writing, that's fine. But then when you transfer your answers to the answer sheet, right, you've got 10 minutes, write nicely, and check your spelling. And check to see if your answers make sense grammatically. Stuff like that, right? You've got time to do that. Okay. Continuing on, it sounds like this. Oh, when they're giving you all of these directions, hopefully you've heard them so many times that you can actually do something else that might help you, like look at your test booklet, right? So here it goes.
Now turn to Section 1. Section 1. You will hear a telephone conversation between a travel company employee and a customer. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 5.
There you go. Quick quiz question. Who is going to be speaking in recording number 1? Oh, how many people? How many people? Two people. 2 people are going to be speaking, and who are they? Who are they? They told you who they are. Don't worry, this is okay, in a way this is not something you actually have to answer. But it is a really important fact. Right? If you know who's speaking, if you know what their jobs are, right? It will help you understand. Right? So if you missed that, if you caught that, that's really good. Who knows? Who knows? Two people are speaking. Who are they? Good, exactly. A travel agency or travel company employee, she put it, and a customer. These are the two people who are going to be speaking. Good. And then they say you have time to look at questions 1 to 5. Okay, again, here it is, questions 1 to 5. First thing that you might want to notice is what? How many words? Look, read my hand, read my hand. How many words? How many words can you write down? 1 word and or a number. There we go. And what kind of question is this? There are all kinds of names for this kind of question, but there are, how many types of questions are there? I keep forgetting, so if you actually know, that would be awesome. All right, in one of the lessons before, we went through all the question types. How many types of questions are there? Remember? God, I don't remember. There are fewer than 10. Don't worry. I should know this. And what kind of question is this? Yeah, fill out the table. Right? It's a fill in the blanks kind of question, and it is a table. Right? It's a type of table. Right? So headings and headings this way. All right? Apartments, facilities, other information and costs. What kind of apartment? Right? Kinds of facilities, miscellaneous information, and amount in pounds. All right? So, what else do you need to notice? What else do you want to notice before they play the tape and they go, ta-da, it's time for you to come up with answers? What else do you want to notice? Before the audio is played, and see, the thing is, you have not that long, maybe 30 seconds or so, maybe less, maybe fewer, to notice all this information. What do you need to know? What's this? First thing they're going to play is what? The example. So you kind of have time. You have a little bit of time. What are you going to be thinking about? Oh, man, I'm hungry. I don't know what I'm going to eat after this. Gee, no. What you're going to be thinking about is what information this example is going to give you. Important information, kind of. What is it? Okay, so here's the example. Rose Garden Apartments, studio flat, other information, example, entertainment program, Greek dancing. Dancing has already been filled in for you, and the cost is £219. What is important about that? What can you tell about this recording from the example? Again, who's going to be speaking? Two people are going to be speaking, and who are they? Did you guys forget already? My God, jeez. Anyone? You'll hear it again. Okay, so what do you think this is? What's coming up? What is this? What is this? The customer wants what? Yep, customer wants accommodations, right? Basically, they're going to be talking probably about different types of accommodations, right? The name of the apartments, what makes what's facilities, by the way? Does anybody know? What are facilities? For example, if you have if you're going on vacation and you're staying at a hotel, and the accommodations have different facilities. What's an example of one type of facility? Swimming pool. There you go. Swimming pools, right? Like indoor parking, things like that. Oh, a gym. It's a type of facility, right? Okay, so look at all this information that you're not filling in. Here's the first thing you're going to be filling in right there, right? That's question 1. What's all this other stuff before question 1? What is this? Remember, 2 people are going to be speaking, right? The important thing is you need to be filling in one word right here or a number. And before that, you need to know when they're going to say that word or a number, right? And you need to write it down really, really fast. So, what are you going to be listening for? How do you know when this comes up? What did I call this? What did I call what you're going to be listening for before it comes up? What are you going to be listening for before number 1? They're going to be, someone is going to say what? Probably. Someone's going to say what? Probably. Maybe. Hopefully. They're going to say something about maybe. First, Blue Bay. Second, they're going to be saying something about saltwater swimming pool. And then maybe right about when you're going to be writing this down, they're going to say something about the beach. And what do you think is going to go in there? Good. It's going to be a number. So you're going to be listening for a number. You're going to be listening for maybe saltwater, maybe swimming pool, and then you're going to hear beach. And when you hear near shops and you haven't written anything down, you missed it. Too bad. It's gone. You missed 1 point. Sorry. So listen. Okay. Here it goes. They're going to give you the example, and they're going to go, and you're going to say, okay, that was kind of interesting. Sometimes it's more helpful than sometimes it's more helpful than others. So here it goes. Hey, wait a minute. No, go away. Jeez. Okay.
You will see that there is an example that has been done for you. On this occasion only, the conversation relating to this will be played first.
Greek island holidays, can I help you?
Yes, I hope so. I have a friend who's just come back from Corfu, and she's recommended some apartments in Arilus. She thought they might be on your list.
Arilus, let me see. Can you give me the names?
Yes, the first's Rose Garden Apartments. I'd like to go with another friend in the last week of October.
Well, we've got a lovely studio flat available at that time. I'm sure you'd enjoy the entertainment programme there too, with Greek dancing in the restaurant.
The entertainment programme offers Greek dancing, so Greek dancing has been written in the space. Now we shall begin. You should answer the questions as you listen, because you will not hear the recording a second time.
Okay, so again, that was the example, right? And it means that now you kind of have an idea of what's going to happen, right? Got the idea, good, right? For some people, it's like, yeah, I've heard that before. It's just a waste of time. And one of the things you can do is you can actually look ahead, right? And also it gives you an example of how at least in this recording, how the information is presented, right? So, are you ready? Here we go.
Listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 5.
Greek island holidays, can I help you?
Yes, I hope so. I have a friend who's just come back from Corfu, and she's recommended some apartments in Aralis. She thought they might be on your list.
Aralis, let me see. Can you give me the names?
Yes, the first's Rose Garden Apartments. I'd like to go with another friend in the last week of October.
Well, we've got a lovely studio flat available at that time. I'm sure you'd enjoy the entertainment program there too, with Greek dancing in the restaurant.
And the cost for each of us?
£219.
That sounds very reasonable. I'm just jotting down some notes. Now, the second one she mentioned was called Blue Bay.
Blue Bay. Yes, in fact, that's very popular, and it has some special features.
Really?
The main attraction is the large swimming pool with salt water.
Much healthier, I understand.
That's right. And it isn't far from the beach either, only 300 metres. And only around half a kilometre to some shops, so you don't have to be too energetic.
Is it much more expensive than the first one?
Let me just check. I think at the time you want to go, it's around £260. No, £275 to be exact.
Right, I've got that. Now, there are just 2 more apartments to ask you about. I can't read my own writing. Something to do with sunshine, is it?
I think you meant the Sunshade Apartments. They're on a mountainside.
Any special features?
Yes, each room has its own sun terrace, and there are shared barbecue facilities.
Ooh, sounds lovely.
Yes, it is rather well equipped. It also provides water sports. It has its own beach. There are facilities for water skiing.
Any kite surfing? My friend's quite keen.
Not at the hotel, but I'm sure you'll find some in Aralis. There's also satellite TV in the apartments.
And how much is that one?
£490 with 2 sharing.
You mean £245 each?
I'm afraid not. Each person has to pay that amount, and there must be at least 2 in an apartment.
Oh, I don't think that would be within our budget, unfortunately. And the last one sounds a bit expensive too. The Grand?
Actually, it's quite reasonable. It's an older style house with Greek paintings in every room and a balcony outside.
Sounds nice. What are the views like?
Well, there are forests all round, and they hide a supermarket just down the road, so that's very useful for all your shopping needs. There's a disco in the area too.
And the price?
£319 at that time, but if you leave it till November, it goes down by 40%.
Too late, I'm afraid.
Well, why don't I send you a brochure with full details, Miss...
Nash. But don't worry about that. I'm coming to Upminster soon, and I'll call and get one. I just wanted to get an idea first.
Well, that's fine. We've got plenty here when you come.
There you go.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 6 to 10.
Okay. You guys want to go over the answers before we go on to questions 6 to 10? How was that? Not too tricky? Not too bad? Good. Okay. So one of the things that they do, right? And this is important if you want to do well on the test, right? You kind of want to see what their tricks are, right? Sometimes they'll give you information that is tricky, that is kind of a trap or might be useless, right? Here you were looking for a number, right? They gave you 2 numbers. That one wasn't too bad, but it was only slightly tricky. They said, for example, you were listening for a swimming pool. It was a large swimming pool that is salt water. So if you were listening for salt water first or swimming pool before this, you actually heard salt water last. How many meters? 300 meters it was. Good. 300 meters from the beach and your shops. Good. Number 2, people got tricked by this. Ha ha ha. They did. I saw some people get tricked by a false answer. What were the name of the apartments for number 2? Sunshade. Some people wrote sunshine. Why? Because she said sunshine first. I think they're called sunshine. No, they're not. It's actually sunshade. And some people spelled sunshade wrong. How do you spell sunshade? Everybody knows how to spell sun. But how about the second part? S-H-A-D-E. Right? Yeah, some people kind of missed it. They wrote sunshade or something like that. Yeah, shade, because why? Because it's on the side of a mountain. Okay, good. All right. Greek paintings and a what? For the grand, which she thought was expensive, but it actually was quite reasonable. It was a balcony. Good. Wow. That looks terrible. Balcony. And number 4, it's overlooking what? Forest. And how much was it? 390. Good. There we go. You guys did okay? 319. Is it 319? Oh yeah, it was 319. Sorry about that. Haha. $319. That was kind of tricky, right? 1990. 1990. People kind of mess that up sometimes. Careful. Okay. Are you ready to continue? Now you have time to look at... Oh, I want this to go away. Stop it. This thing is kind of hard to control. Jeez. Nope. Still can't get it to go down. Help. All right. That's upsetting. Weird. Okay, now look at questions 6 to 10. Okay, that was kind of a warm-up, but on this one, it is good to know what is going to go into the blanks. Number 6 is pretty easy. It will be a what? It'll be a number. If it helps, again, because you can write in your test booklet, and if you write really quickly, you can just make a symbol like number, right? You're looking for for example. You write something like this underneath. Just write something really quickly, right? When they say questions 6 to 10, you can do stuff like that. For some other people, some people may think, why do that? If it helps, cool. All right, and the next one, number 7, it's a 600 pounds hospital, right? 600 pounds, additional benefits, allows a blank to travel to resort. Any idea? A what? Maybe, right? Yeah. Allows an ambulance travel to resort. It's possible. It's possible. Something like that, because it has to do, these are different insurance benefits, right? Cancellation, hospital, or something like that. No, insurance benefits, maximum amount, right? What do you think this is going to be? It says Greek Island holidays, insurance benefits, maximum amount. This before the audio actually starts to play, it's helpful to try to figure out what all of this information is. What do you think it is, total? Again, it's another table, but what do you think this table is about? Insurance, probably. Something about travel insurance, right? Insurance benefits, maximum amount, right? Cancellation, amount, hospital, additional benefits allow a blank, maybe something like an ambulance, has to do with hospitals. 8. Emergency departure, possibly, right? Maximum amount, $1,000, depends on reason. Emergency departure makes sense, right? Right, because you might have to leave in an emergency. Okay, personal belongings up to 3,000 pounds, 500 pounds for one. What do you think? Can't get it back anymore. Jeez. For one, what do you think? It's weird, right? Wait, let me try this. Okay, this and go back. And then good. Okay. Again, this is important. One number and one word and or a number. So it can be a letter and a word and a number, or it can be just a number or just a word. So for one, take a guess. Any guess? It has to do with personal belongings. Your best guess would probably be, what's that? Stuff for one thing. Right? It could have been something like piece of luggage, but that would be 3 words. My God. All right? That would not, because it says one word and or a number. Could be something like a bag, something like that. Right? And then name of assistant manager, Ben. Ben, last name. Perfect. Right? So that's what you're looking for. If the last name is not common, they will usually spell it or repeat it, or both, right? So let's take a listen. Remember, these long pauses are almost always the same amount of time. It's about 30 seconds. Seems pretty long, right?
Now listen and answer questions 6 to 10.
If you've got a minute, could I just check a couple of points about insurance? I got one policy through the post, but I'd like to see if yours is better.
Fine. What would you like to know?
Well, the one I've got has benefits, and then the maximum amount you can claim. Is that like yours?
Yes, that's how most of them are.
Well, the first thing is cancellation. If the holiday's cancelled on the policy I've got, you can claim £8,000.
We can improve on that, Miss Nash. For Greek island holidays, our maximum is £10,000.
That's good. Of course, our holiday won't even cost £1,000 together.
It's still sensible to have good cover. Now, if you go to hospital, we allow £600.
Yes, mine's similar.
And we also allow a relative to travel to your holiday resort?
My policy just says their representative will help you.
You can see there's another difference there. And what happens if you don't get on the plane?
Nothing, as far as I can see on this form.
Don't you have missed departure?
No, I'll just jot that down.
We pay up to £1,000 for that, depending on the reason. And we're particularly generous about loss of personal belongings, up to £3,000, but not more than £500 for a single item.
Then I'd better not take my laptop.
Not unless you insure it separately.
OK, thanks very much for your time. You've really been helpful. Can I get back to you? Your name is...
Ben Ludlow. That's Ludlow. I'm the assistant manager here. I'll give you my number. It's 081 260 543 216.
But didn't I phone 081 260 567294. That's what I've got on the paper.
That's the main switchboard. I've given you my direct line.
Right. Thank you very much for your time.
It's pretty cool how at the end...
That is the end of section 1.
No more information.
You now have half a minute
Please,
to
we can
check
end
your
right there.
answers.
But they'll just keep it going. They'll just keep it going. Okay, so there we go. It was insurance. Our guesses were mostly wrong, but it's okay. At least we were trying to figure out what to expect. So cancellation. What was the amount? What was the amount? How much was it? The amount, was it 8,000 or 10,000? It was 10,000. Cool. Why did they say 8? Good. That was her previous insurance. Do not get mixed up because it says here at Greek Island Holidays, right? So don't just write down any number. Don't just write down the first number you hear. Basically, she's asking for the information for the new policy. And there it is. So how about this one? Hospital additional benefits allow a what or who? A relative. Good. Ooh, fun. They allow a relative to travel to resort. Nice. All right. And what was this one? Number 8. Okay. How do you spell that? Remember, it has to be grammatically correct. So it would be ED, missed departure, as in that's the adjective, right? All right. So it's not because you miss the departure. It would be missed departure. And personal belongings up to good guess for stuff, right? Up to 3,500 pounds for one item. Good. And what was the name of the person she was speaking to? And did they spell that? They did. Good. How do you spell it? Good. It's spelled it's spelled the way it sounds. Good. Ben Ludlow, Ludlow. And as we all know, that is the end of section 1. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Good. Ah. Jesus, what happened? Okay, go back. Nope. Go back. Okay. Let's go on to section 2.
Section 2.
Okay, good. We are on to section 2. Can you tell me about section 2? Different from section 1. Kind of similar, but kind of different. What about section 2 compared to all the other sections? Usually, right? There are multiple choices. What else? What's it going to be about? Generally, usually. I mean, compared to section 3, section 4, and similar to section 1. Yeah, general information. Usually does not have to do with school, academics, things like that, right? Good, now we can move it. Again, this is multiple choice. We can see that really quickly. Ooh, some people really like multiple choice. You have a 1 in 3 chance of getting it right, even if you guess or just pick at random. There is something difficult about multiple choice questions, though. What are they? What is the unique, troublesome thing about multiple choice questions for the listening? Time. if you're not a quick reader, you have to read this. When they started, the family decided to open the park only when A, the weather was expected to be good, B, the children weren't at school, C, there were fewer farming commitments, right? You'll have to read that pretty quickly in the time that you have to check to check the questions, right? It's a bit of a challenge. It is, right? Not only that, but sometimes they will mention all three of these things. A lot of times they'll mention all three of these things, right? But only one is correct. So a lot of times you're going to have to be listening for content, right? They're going to say something like, it wasn't his childhood hobby, but blah, 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 right? So maybe they're going to mention it, but they're going to say that it's not this. It perhaps wasn't this. It was not because of his interest in landscape design. Or they might not actually even use that vocabulary, right? So there are certain kind of tricky things about this, right? Section 1 will trick you because maybe they'll give you a couple of different answers. Section 2, they might trick you because they might use different vocabulary, things like that. Okay. So you have time to look at these questions. What do you think it's going to be about? They're going to tell you really quickly, but even before then, you have time to take a look at it and maybe guess what it's about. What do you think it's going to be about? Good. It's going to be about a park. It's going to be about a railway park. Railway? What's railway? It's a train, right? It's like a train station of some sort, right? What else? What else do you think you can infer about this? One of the things we know is there's some guy named Simon, and he's the one who opened the park, right? And then you're going to be listening for why he opened the park. And what else? So this is basically why the park was made. Second question is, here's the thing, right? When you don't have a lot of time to do this, you're going to be reading, right? And you're going to be trying to process exactly what they're going to be asking for. There's no easy way to do this, but you're going to have to work on this. You're going to have to go, okay, the idea, why, right? Why the theme park? Second question, the park only opens when, right? Open only when, right? Really quickly. Oh, it's open only when, and they're going to tell you when the park was open in the beginning, right? When they started. In the beginning, when the park was first opened, and then you're going to have to listen for this. Maybe weather, maybe children, maybe farming, right? Or maybe commitments, right? You're going to be listening for these things, and you're going to be going, maybe not this. And the best way to get to the answer, weirdly enough, is to eliminate the wrong answers, right? So cross them off really quickly. No, okay, well, not this, got to be this, right? There you go. And since opening the park has had, and then you're going to be listening for how many visitors, just a number, right? And pretty quickly, you want to see what's going to happen next, because this is only 3 questions, and wow, that got really weird. Okay. And then you've got questions 14 to 18, which is this kind of thing, right? Because they might actually kind of go on really quickly. Questions 14 to 18, you're going to be doing what over here? Here's a list of names. And what are you going to be writing down next to the list of names? Questions 14 to 18. Letters, right? The letters which correspond to type of work. Who and what they do. Something like that, right? And then really quickly, only 2 questions here, 19 and 20, right? This is going to probably be a what? meters squared. It's gonna be a number, and number 20 is gonna be an age, a number, right? Number and number. All right. And we're going back. Okay, questions 11 through 13, and then...
You will hear a talk on local radio about a children's theme park. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 13. Now listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 13.
For the second in our series about locally run businesses, we meet Simon Winridge, co-founder of the hugely successful Winridge Forest Railway Park. Welcome, Simon. Now, perhaps you can begin by telling us a little bit about how it all started.
Well, during the 1970s, my wife Liz and I had just acquired 80 acres of sheep farming land, and we decided to settle down and have children. Pretty soon we had a daughter, Sarah, and a son, Duncan. The place was wonderful for the kids. They particularly loved trains and gradually built up an enormous network of miniature railway track. I began to develop larger-scale models of locomotives, but we didn't think anything more of it until I went on a trip to a theme park near Birmingham and decided we could do a much better job. So we set up a small one ourselves, based on the miniature railway, and we opened to the public for just a month that year, 1984, in July, our driest month, because our children said they didn't want our guests to have a miserable wet visit. I dealt with park business and Liz carried on with the farm work. It soon became clear that we were onto a winner. We began to extend the railway track and lay it among more interesting landscape by planting trees, which in turn attracted more wildlife, and by making cuttings through the rock. Nowadays, we're open all year round, and we're pleased to say that Winridge is one of the most popular visitor attractions in the area, with 50,000 visitors a year. 1.5 million people have been through our doors since we opened.
Before you hear the rest of the talk, you have some time to look at questions 14 to 20.
Okay, so that was questions 11 through 13. Okay, so what makes this one different and challenging from the first one? Sometimes people are just kind of listening through it and going, oh, right, am I supposed to be answering questions? Oh, crap, I missed all of them. They're done. Oops. So there you go, right? Any helpful hints on this? How do you approach this? Let's see how you guys did. Good, mostly good. Some people were not tricked by it. Some people were fooled totally and completely by them. Who needs to hear it again? Don't check your answers yet. Don't check your answers. A lot of people are like, oh yeah, I just want to see the end of the movie. No, don't check your answers yet, because we're going to go through and we're going to figure out what they are. Do you want to hear the next part? And then we'll go through the whole thing again. That's the half a minute.
Now listen and answer questions 14 to 20.
All these visitors mean we have had to expand our operation, and it's now a truly family concern. I'm near to retirement age, so I only concern myself with looking after the mechanical side of things, keeping the trains going. Liz now devotes all her energies to recruiting and supporting the large squadron of workers, which keep the place running smoothly. We're really pleased that, after some years away teaching, Sarah has now returned to the park and makes sure the visitors are kept fed and watered, which keeps her pretty busy, as you can imagine. Our son Duncan has been a stalwart of the park for the last 10 years, taking over from me in the area of construction. And I'll say a little bit more about that in a moment. And his new wife, Judith, has also joined the team in charge of retail. That's becoming a tremendous growth area for us. A lot of people want to buy souvenirs.
So have you finished your development of the site for the moment?
Not at all. We're constantly looking for ways to offer more to our visitors. The railway remains the central feature, and there's now 1.2 kilometres of the line laid, but we'd like to lay more. Because of the geology of the area, our greatest problem is digging tunnels, but we're gradually overcoming that. We're also very pleased with a new installation of the go-kart arena, which is 120 square metres in area. Again, the problem is the geology. We had to level the mounds on the track for safety reasons. We wanted to enable 5 to 12-year-olds to use the go-karts. And the main attraction here is the Formula One kart. We've known fights to break out over who gets it. And then, finally, to our most recent development, which is the landscape swimming.
There we go.
That is the end of section 2. Section 2.
Okay, now there you go. These are the interesting little challenges that are associated with section 2. What did you notice that was different? A lot of times the answers aren't really that obvious, and sometimes you're listening for something that's not there, right? You're listening for specific vocabulary that's written down here, and they don't say it. Why? Because they're using synonyms. Right? This is kind of a vocabulary test, right? A vocabulary test of what actually means the same thing but sounds different. Okay, let's go through it. And we're going to go through it like this. Hey, question number 11. Simon's idea for a theme park came from? Okay, good. And how do we know?
Section 2. You will hear a talk 11 to 13.
For the second in our series about locally run businesses, we meet Simon Winridge, co-founder of the hugely successful Winridge Forest Railway Park. Welcome, Simon. Now, perhaps you can begin by telling us a little bit about how it all started.
Well, during the 1970s, my wife Liz and I had just acquired 80 acres of sheep farming land, and we decided to settle down and have children. Pretty soon we had a daughter, Sarah, and a son, Duncan. The place was wonderful for the kids. They particularly loved trains and gradually built up an enormous network of miniature railway track. I began to develop larger-scale models of locomotives, but we didn't think anything more of it until I went on a trip to a theme park near Birmingham and decided we could do a much better job. So we set up a small one ourselves, based on the miniature railway, and we opened to the public for just a month that year, 1984, in July, our driest month, because our children said they didn't want.
Jeez. Okay, so where did he get the idea? It said, Oh, this is a pest. All right. Yeah, his visit to another park. Right. He just said so. And
Want our guests to have a miserable wet visit. I dealt with park business.
the second part. All right. When they started, the family decided to open the park only when. Yeah. How do you know? Yeah, they didn't want the guests to have a miserable visit. So that was the way that they actually answered A, right? Only when it's dry, and they didn't want their guests to have a miserable visit. Ta-da! And continue on.
And Liz carried on with the farm work. It soon became clear that we were onto a winner. We began to extend the railway track and lay it among more interesting landscape by planting trees, which in turn attracted more wildlife, and by making cuttings through the rock. Nowadays, we're open all year round, and we're pleased to say that Wimridge is one of the most popular visitor attractions in the area, with 50,000 visitors a year. 1.5 million people have been through our doors since we opened.
There we go. So, what was the answer to number 13? Some of you guys were tricked by this. It was tricky. What was it? Was it 50,000 visitors? It's a bit too obvious, isn't it? Really. What was it? 1.5 million visitors have been through our doors. So it's C. 1.5 million visitors have been through our doors since the park has opened, right? 50,000 visitors is per year, so it's not A, it's C. Okay. Good. Hopefully you got 11, 12, and 13. Now this one got kind of tricky. Why was it tricky? It was pretty tricky. Why? Because, yes, they mentioned every name here, right? But you had to match the names with the duties. And did you hear any of these? No. Why? Because they used synonyms. They used other words that mean the same thing. Do you remember how? Well, listen for the rest of it, and you'll see.
Before you hear the rest of the talk, you have some time to look at questions 14 to 20. Now listen and answer questions 14 to 20.
All these visitors mean we have had to expand our operation, and it's now a truly family concern. I'm near to retirement age, so I only concern myself with looking after the mechanical side of things, keeping the trains going. Liz now devotes all her energies to...
Okay, so Simon, he concerns himself with what? The mechanical side of things, which would be E, engine maintenance, right? Keeping the trains running, right? Mechanical engines, keeping the trains running, maintaining them, right? Keeping them running, keeping them going. E, engine maintenance, it was. There we go. Continuing on.
Recruiting and supporting the large squadron of workers, which keep the place running smoothly. We're really pleased that...
Okay, so that was Liz, his wife, recruiting a large squadron of workers, keeping the place going, which would be staffing, H, staffing, which means hiring and managing all of the people who work there. So that'd be H, staffing. Staff means people who work in a place, right? For example, teachers, customer service people, IT people, staffing, right? Human resources. And then the next part would be Sarah.
After some years away teaching, Sarah has now returned to the park and makes sure the visitors are kept fed and watered, which keeps her pretty busy, as you can imagine.
Okay, fed and watered. F, food and drink. Fed and watered. Food and drink. There we go.
Our son Duncan has been a stalwart of the park for the last 10 years, taking over from me in the area of construction. And I'll say a little bit more about
Construction. C, building.
that in a moment. And his new wife, Judith, has also joined the team in charge of retail. That's becoming a tremendous growth area for us. A lot of people want to buy souvenirs.
So have you finished?
Okay, so retail. Sales. G, retail, right? Selling stuff, selling souvenirs. Good. All right. And then the
Finished your development of the site for the moment?
Not at all. We're constantly looking for ways to offer more to our visitors. The railway remains the central feature, and there's now 1.2 kilometres of the line laid, but we'd like to lay more. Because of the geology of the area, our greatest problem is digging tunnels, but we're gradually overcoming that. We're also very pleased with a new installation of the go-kart arena, which is 120 square metres in area. Again, the problem is the geology.
How many square meters in area? 120 square meters in area.
We had to level the mounds on the track for safety reasons. We wanted to enable 5 to 12-year-olds to use the go-karts. And the main attraction...
There we go. Target age group for go-karts? 5 to 12, right? 5 to 12. Good.
here is the Formula One kart. We've known fights to break out over who gets it. And then, finally, to our most recent development, which is the landscape swimming.
That is the end of section 2. You may now check your answers. Okay, well, actually, you may now take a break. How's that? Cool. All right. We will return for section 3 at about 8. Let's make it before 8, sometime before 8.
Section 3.
Okay. All right. So most of you are back. And we're going to continue on to Section 3. So, Section 3. Kind of difficult because it's Section 3. What makes it different from Sections 1 and 2? What makes it similar to Section 4? It's like same, but different. What's up with Section 3? Every Section 3 is kind of similar. Section 1 and Section 2 are general information kind of things. General topics. Could be about, you'll hear someone on the radio. You'll hear some promotion, advertising. You'll hear like two people talking about information that you have to fill in. Section 3 and Section 4 are always what? They are academic, which means they are related to what? Studying in school. Fun, right? So yeah, there will always be about school. There will always be about studying, right? Something about student life maybe, right? At a university. Stuff like that. This one, what do you think? First of all, you will notice that no more than 2 words and or a number. That's always important. Look at that really quickly. Should take you like half a second. And then, what do you think this is going to be about? First of all, how many questions do you think you'll have to answer with the first part? Could be all of them, possibly, right? Oftentimes in Section 3, definitely in Section 4, it's all going to be at the same time, right? Sections 1, Section 2, they usually break it into 2 parts. Section 3, definitely Section 4, they give it to you all at the same time. No breaks, no pauses. It's all talking and answering. So, what's up with this? What do you think this is going to be about? Who do you think are going to be? Who do you think is going to be talking? How many people? Think, possibly 2 or 3. 2 or 3. A lot of times it's 3, right? Could be, right? Meeting with a professor, that kind of thing, right? And in this case, what do you think they're going to be talking about? The more information you can guess, the more you can kind of expect or prepare yourself for this in your mind, the better, right? If you can kind of guess what's going to happen, right? Even if you're wrong, whatever, right? As long as you're trying to focus on what's going to be coming up, right? That's what you're going to be doing. You're going to be trying to mentally prepare yourself by quickly looking through this. Quickly means you have about 30 seconds to look through this, right? So, what do you think? I'm going to try and make it a little bit smaller so you can get everything all at the same time. Ish. Okay, so what do you think it's going to be about? Study skills tutorial, Caroline Benning, dissertation topic, the strengths, computer modeling, weaknesses, blah, blah, blah. Any guesses? What do you think it's going to be about? Oh, what's a dissertation? Don't worry, it's a tough vocabulary word. But it takes up a lot of people's time, especially if they're doing their master's degree. Right? Your dissertation is basically related to your thesis. It is related to your research paper that you're going to be doing. in order for you to graduate, right? That's kind of that's the thing that you have to do. You have to, at the end of your master's degree studies, right, you're going to be appearing in front of a whole group of people, and you're going to be defending your thesis, right? That's like your dissertation, right? So that's kind of part of it. It says dissertation topic, the blah, blah, blah. This is somebody's research that they had to do to get their master's degree. Strengths, weaknesses. What do you think this is going to be about? Any idea? Any guesses? Study skills. It's going to be about study skills, right? That's it, right? You're kind of going through this going, oh my God, what is this? Well, it's about study skills. It says so right in the beginning. What else? What do you think is going to help you here as you're going through this? Number 21, what are you going to be listening for? Really quickly. Yeah? Topic, right? First, you're going to be hearing the word dissertation. You're going to be hearing topic, and then it's going to be followed by the something. Write it down really quickly, right? Again, there's nothing else before this except for strengths, which could possibly be, this is the tricky part, could possibly be, they may not use the word strengths. Think of other words that mean strengths. Advantages, good one. Another one, pros, right, as opposed to pros and cons, right? It could be that, or they could simply just say strengths. And if they say computer modeling, it might be too late. Oops. Weaknesses, they could be cons, could be disadvantages, lack of background information, and then poor. Chances are they might actually say poor. They might say weak. They might say something else, right? They might use another vocabulary word. Again, this is section 3. It is expected to be difficult. Expected to be difficult. And then again, this goes into a table, right? This is going to kind of go like this. They're going to name the strategy first. They're going to name the benefit. They're going to name the problem. And then it's going to go into the next strategy. So it's the way that they're going to organize the information in the talk. It's going to go like this. So listen for this first. Possible strategy, peer group discussion, increases. They might not even use the word increases, but that means the same thing, right? And then they're going to go on to this. Dissertation tends to contain the same, right? Okay, we're going to listen for this. There's no other way to do it, but do it. Here it goes. Are you ready?
You will hear a geography student called Caroline discussing her dissertation with her tutor. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 23. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 23.
Oh, they do break it up. Sorry about that.
Ah, Caroline. Come on in, sit down.
Thanks.
So how's the dissertation planning going?
Well, Dr. Shulman, I'm still having a lot of trouble deciding on a title.
Well, that's perfectly normal at this stage. And this is what your tutorials will help you to do.
Right.
What we'll do is jot down some points that might help you in your decision. First of all, you have chosen your general topic area, haven't you?
Yes, it's the fishing industry.
Oh, yes, that was one of the areas you mentioned. Now, what aspects of the course are you good at?
Well, I think I'm coping well with statistics, and I'm never bored by it.
Good. Anything else?
Well, I found computer modelling fascinating. I have no problem following what's being taught, whereas quite a few of my classmates find it difficult.
Well, that's very good. Do you think these might be areas you could bring into your dissertation?
Oh, yes, if possible. It's just that I'm having difficulty thinking how I can do that. You see, I feel I don't have sufficient background information.
I see. Well, do you take notes?
I'm very weak at note-taking. My teachers always used to say that.
Well, I think you really need to work on these weaknesses before you go any further.
What do you suggest?
Before you hear the rest of the tutorial, you have some time to look at questions 24 to 30.
Okay. Would you rather go through the first part right now? I didn't know they were going to break it up into 21 to 23 and then go on. That's kind of good. You want to go through the first one? You think it will help? Let's do that. Let's do that. All right. So, did anybody get the first one, dissertation topic? The fishing industry. Good. All right. Wait, hold on. That did not go well. Let me see.
To 23.
Ah, Caroline. Come on in, sit down.
Thanks.
So how's the dissertation planning going?
Well, Dr. Shulman, I'm still having a lot of trouble deciding on a title.
Well, that's perfectly normal at this stage. And this is what your tutorials will help you to do.
Right.
What we'll do is jot down some points that might help you in your decision. First of all, you have chosen your general topic area, haven't you?
Yes, it's the fishing industry.
Oh, yes, that was one of the areas you mentioned.
There you go. So she says it's the fishing industry. Ooh, that was the good one. That was a good part. Later on, right, do they say strengths? They didn't, did they? Listen for what they call it instead of strengths. All right, let me see if I can actually write this. I hate switching back and forth. But here we go. The fishing industry. See, you could basically run into problems when you can't spell the word industry. Hopefully you can. Yep. Go back.
Now, what aspects of the course are you good at?
Well, I think I'm coping well with statistics, and I'm...
Okay, so instead of strengths, he said what aspect are you good at, right? They never actually mentioned strengths, but that's what they mean. What aspects of the course are you good at? And then she said what? Statistics. How do you spell statistics? That could be a problem, right? This could be a problem, but it is spelled S-T-A, sorry, T-I-S-T-I-C-S, statistics. And this is again the fishing industry. Okay, statistics, good. Let me see if I can switch back and forth again. This is a real pain.
never bored by it.
Good. Anything else?
Well, I found computer modelling fascinating. I have no problem following what's being taught, whereas quite a few of my classmates find it difficult.
Well, that's very good. Do you think these might be areas you could bring into your dissertation?
Oh, yes, if possible. It's just that I'm having difficulty thinking how I can do that. You see, I feel I don't have sufficient background information.
I see. Well, do you take notes?
I'm very weak at note-taking. My teachers always used to say that.
Well, I think you really need to work on these weaknesses before you go any further.
What do you suggest?
Right? So,
Before you hear the rest of the tutorial, you have some time.
So basically, oh crap. So she didn't say, right? She said weak at what? Note taking. There we go. Weak at note taking. All right. So that's the thing. And I think he said something instead of weaknesses, things that you can work on. Right. So if you're listening for these key vocabulary words, they don't do that. So be careful. Right. Again, it's listening for content. Right. That's what they're testing you on. They're not just testing you to see if you can keep up with your keywords, unlike the first two sections. So tricky, right? Tricky. Okay. What's really tricky is using this whiteboard. All right. And it just disappeared. Okay. Now we're going to continue to 24 to 30. Let's do it.
To look at questions 24 to 30. Now listen and answer questions 24 to 30.
Well, I can go through the possible strategies with you and let you decide where to go from there.
Okay, thanks.
Well, some people find it helpful to organize peer group discussions. You know, each week a different person studies a different topic and shares it with the group.
Oh, right.
It really helps build confidence.
Yeah.
You know, having to present something to others.
I can see that.
The drawback is that everyone in the group seems to share the same ideas. They keep being repeated in all the dissertations.
Okay.
You could also try a service called Student Support. It's designed to give you a structured program over a number of weeks to develop your skills.
Sounds good.
Yes. Unfortunately, there are only a few places.
Ah.
But it's worth looking into.
Yes, of course. I know I've got to work on my study skills.
And then there are several study skills books you can consult.
Right.
They'll be a good source of reference. But the problem is, they are sometimes too general.
Yes, that's what I've found.
Other than that, I would strongly advise quite simple ideas, like using a card index.
Well, yes, I've never done that before.
It's simple, but it really works because you have to get points down in a small space. Another thing I always advise is don't just take your notes and forget about them. Read everything 3 times. That'll really fix them in your mind.
Yes. I can see it'd take discipline, but...
Well, if you establish good study skills at this stage, they'll be with you all your life.
Oh, yes, I completely agree. It's just that I don't seem to be able to discipline myself. I need to talk things over.
We'll be continuing these tutorials, of course. Let's arrange next month's now. Let's see. I can see you virtually any time during the week starting the 22nd of January.
What about the 24th? I'm free in the afternoon.
Sorry, I'm booked then. What about the following day?
The Thursday?
Yeah?
I can make the morning.
Fine. We'll go for the 25th then.
That's great. Thanks.
Oh, that was cute.
That is the end of
I saw you guys writing an answer down, erasing the answer, writing the answer down, erasing the answer, and then finally writing the answer down. Good. Excellent. Means I think you got the answer. Okay. Let's go through them. 24. All right. Let me see if I can actually back up. Weird.
Everything 3 times. That'll really...
Sounds good.
Yes. Unfortunately, there are only a few places. Well, I can go through the possible strategies with you and let you decide where to go from there.
Okay, thanks.
Well, some people find it helpful to organize peer group discussions. You know, each week a different person studies a different topic and shares it with the group.
Oh, right.
It really helps build confidence.
Yeah.
You know, having to present something to others.
I can see that.
Okay, so what was that one? Confidence. Let's see if we can actually get this right. Oh, good. See, notice that he did not say increases. All right. So your signpost here is peer group discussions. If you're waiting for this, for the word increases, it never comes. What did he actually say? It helps build confidence. Instead of increases confidence, helps build confidence. Right? Which means the same thing. Now, this one comes up pretty quickly after that.
The drawback is that everyone in the group seems to share the same ideas. They keep being repeated in all the dissertations.
Okay.
And here we go. What was that? Yep. Good. All right. He didn't actually say something like they tend to share, they share the same ideas, right? Okay, and next part.
Could also try a service called student support.
Mm-hmm.
It's designed to give you a...
And what was that? It was a service called student support. Good.
A structured program over a number of weeks to develop your skills.
Sounds good.
Yes. Unfortunately, there are only a few places.
Ah.
But it's worth looking into.
Yes, of course. I know I've got to work on my...
Okay, limited, meaning only a few places. Good.
study skills.
And then there are several study skills books you can consult.
Right.
They'll be a good source of reference. But the problem is, they are sometimes too general.
Yes, that's what I've found.
Yeah, that's what I found. So they are sometimes too general.
Other than that, I would strongly advise quite simple ideas, like using a card index.
Well, yes, I've never done that before.
It's simple, but it really works because you have to get points down in a small space. Another thing I always advise is don't just take your notes and forget about them. Read everything 3 times. That'll really fix them in your mind.
That will really fix them in your mind. Read all notes how many times? 3 times.
Yes. I can see it'd take discipline, but...
Well, If you establish good study skills at this stage, they'll be with you all your life.
Oh, yes, I completely agree. It's just that I don't seem to be able to discipline myself. I need to talk things over.
We'll be continuing these tutorials, of course. Let's arrange next month's now. Let's see. I can see you virtually any time during the week starting the 22nd of January.
22nd.
What about the 24th? I'm free in the afternoon.
Sorry, I'm booked then. What about the following day?
The Thursday?
Yeah?
I can make the morning.
Fine. We'll go for the 25th then.
That's great. Thanks.
25th of January.
That is the end of section 3.
Section 3.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
And there we go. Come back. There we go. So hopefully you got all of section 3. Yeah, you think? Section 1, section 2, section 3, totally cake. Good. You're on your way to getting a 9, maybe. All right. So, what do you think was difficult about section 3? Or you think it was easy? It's like, section 3, no problem. All good. It's fine. I'll get, at least a 7. So, what do you think? It was tricky, right? It was tricky, partly because of vocabulary, partly because the answers are kind of hidden, right? You kind of going through the stuff and you're like, what am I supposed to be listening for? There it is, right? Again, if you're kind of weak in this section, you have to work on synonyms, words that mean the same thing. And you have to really quickly listen for that kind of content. Okay.
Section 4.
All right. This is the part you've all been waiting for, the dreaded section 4. Actually, no, it's not that bad. Section 4. What makes section 4 challenging? Really, if you think about this and you've taken the IELTS before and you want to improve your score, chances are, and your score isn't what you wanted it to be, chances are you didn't do as well on this section as you would like. Right? Good. Not good. But it will be good if you can beat this section. So, what's it all about? It's a lecture. Good. Which means that you have to get used to listening to professors talking. To do that, listen to a lot of professors talking. Right? Do any of you have any classes in English at your university? Are you used to taking lectures? I mean, no, listening to lectures. Good. What subjects? What majors or what subjects? Damn, really? Excellent. Anyone else? This is pretty much what it's like, right? You're going to be listening to a professor. The thing is, in a way, this is actually kind of, in a way, sort of easy. It's not, right? But in a way, it is easy because you're looking for specific information. It's all here, right? It's almost like you went to class and you got someone's notes first. And the professor is repeating the same thing again and again, right? So if you think about it that way, it might actually be easier than your regular classes, right? It depends on how difficult your professors are. But if you think about it this way, right? Oh man, yeah, I missed the lecture. Oh, don't worry, the professor's going to give you the same lecture tomorrow. Exactly, because he's a robot, right? And then you show up and you have these notes. But the weird thing is the notes are, they're not just, they're missing information, right? And then there's, weirdly enough, a multiple choice section, right? If you think about it that way, it might actually be easier. It's still not that easy, sorry. So, how can you beat section 4? How can you get good at this? It's a lecture, sure. This one, they only have 2 questions here. Awesome. And the underground house. So what do you think this lecture is going to be about? What subject? Possibly. It's about houses. It's about the underground house. Possibly. It's about houses, so possibly architecture, possibly environmental studies, right? Now, the thing is, students get really about this, right? I don't know anything about the topic they're talking about. How am I expected to do well on this? Nobody expects you to, right? Nobody expects you to know anything about these topics beforehand, right? And supposedly, because the IELTS is an international test, it's not supposed to matter where you're from, right? It's supposed to, these topics and these classes, subjects are supposed to be offered pretty much anywhere in the world, right? But the challenge is they're in English, right? So we have to, one of the things about section 4 is that it's not as tricky as section 3. It's not as tricky because the vocabulary in general is harder, right? The topic, it's going to be all at the same time, usually, right? It's going to be one full lecture, and it's going to bore you. It's going to be about 6 minutes of some guy going like that. Worse than me. Okay, maybe about the same. Anyways, so one of the things is you might actually lose your place. Try to concentrate. Concentrate. And then they're going to mix it up. First, multiple choice, and then they're going to go into another fill-in-the-blank section. Okay. Weird thing is, if you're kind of used to doing these listening tests, right? This test does not have any maps or anything, right? Remember those? The maps and the diagrams. This one doesn't have them, right? That's what happens. Sometimes you'll get a test with diagrams and maps. This one is just a bunch of fill-in-the-blanks, tables, and multiple choices. Sometimes that happens. Okay, let's do it. And then we're going to listen to it a couple of times just for practice.
You will hear part of a lecture about an experimental design for a house. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40.
That's all of them. 31 to 40.
Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Good morning. In the last few lectures, I've been talking about the history of domestic building construction. But today, I want to begin looking at some contemporary experimental designs for housing. So, I'm going to start with a house which is constructed more or less under the ground. And one of the interesting things about this project is that the owners, both professionals but not architects, wanted to be closely involved, so they decided to manage the project themselves. Their chief aim was to create somewhere that was as environmentally friendly as possible. But at the same time, they wanted to live somewhere peaceful. They'd both grown up in a rural area and disliked urban life. So the first thing they did was to look for a site, and they found a disused stone quarry in a beautiful area. The price was relatively low, and they liked the idea of recycling the land, as it were. As it was, the quarry was an ugly blot on the landscape, and it wasn't productive any longer either. They consulted various architects and looked at a number of designs before finally deciding on one. As I've said, it was a design for a sort of underground house, and it was built into the earth itself, with 2 stories. The north, east, and west sides were set in the earth, and only the sloping south-facing side was exposed to the light. That was made of a double layer of very strong glass. There were also photovoltaic tiles fixed to the top and bottom of this sloping wall. These are tiles that are designed to store energy from the sun. And the walls had a layer of foam around them too to increase the insulation. Now, what is of interest to us about this project is the features which make the building energy efficient. Sunlight floods in through the glass wall, and to maximize it, there are lots of mirrors and windows inside the house. That helps to spread the light around. So that's the first thing. Light is utilized as fully as possible. In addition, the special tiles on the outside convert energy from the sun and generate some of the house's electricity. In fact, and it is possible that in future the house may even generate an electricity surplus, and that the owners will be able to sell some to the national grid. As well as that, wherever possible, recycled materials have been used. For example, the floors are made of reclaimed wood, and the owners haven't bought a single item of new furniture. They just kept what they already had. And then there's the system for dealing with the waste produced in the house. This is dealt with organically. It's purified by being filtered through reed beds, which have been planted for that purpose in the garden. So the occupants of the house won't pollute the land or use any damaging chemicals. It's true that the actual construction of the house was harmful to the environment, mainly because they had to use massive amounts of concrete, one of the biggest sources of carbon dioxide in manufacturing. And, as you know, this is very damaging to the environment. In total, the house construction has released 70 tons of carbon dioxide into the air. Now that's a frightening thought. However, once the initial debt has been cleared, and it's been calculated that this will only take 15 years, this underground house won't cost anything, environmentally I mean, because unlike ordinary houses, it is run in a way that is completely environmentally friendly. So, eco-housing like this is likely to become much more...
That is the end of section 4. You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Okay, so that was kind of challenging. Section 4. Hi, are you looking for something? Yeah. I might as well just go around and check your answers. Do not check your own answers. We're going to repeat it. We're going to through it again, make sure that everybody gets it. Not bad. Want to come in and find some more? Okay. Now, again, not too tricky, right? The thing with section 4 is that it's it's challenging enough because they're usually talking about something academic that maybe is a little bit difficult. They go pretty slowly usually. They don't really talk very quickly. They're pretty clear. And they don't use a lot of they do use synonyms. They do use words that mean the same thing. The nice thing about this one is it actually there isn't a lot of filler. There isn't a lot of blah 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 between this. It actually kind of went from one to the other pretty smoothly. So we're going to go through it. I think a lot of you did pretty well because it wasn't that difficult. Okay, let's do it again.
Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Good morning. In the last few lectures, I've been talking about the history of domestic building construction. But today, I want to begin looking at some contemporary experimental designs for housing. So, I'm going to start with a house which is constructed more or less under the ground. And one of the interesting things about this project is that the owners, both professionals but not architects, wanted to be closely involved, so they decided to manage the project themselves. Their chief aim was to create...
See, this is kind of tricky, right? They said they decided to manage the project themselves. So, you're looking at C, wanted a professional project manager. Was that the answer? No, they wanted to manage it themselves, right? Which means that they didn't want a professional project manager. They wanted to do it themselves. So eliminate C, continue on.
Somewhere that was as environmentally friendly as possible. But at the same time, they wanted to live somewhere peaceful. They'd both grown up in a rural area and disliked urban life.
Okay, so they had both grown up in a rural area and disliked urban life. Had no experience of living in a rural area. No, they both grew up in a rural area, which means in the country. So it's not A. Now they mentioned something about being as environmentally friendly as possible. Kind of fits B, right? We're interested in environmental issues. Now, here's the thing, right? You might think, well, that's not quite it, but it's definitely not A and it's not C. So take out A and C, it's got to be B. There you go.
So the first thing they did was to look for a site, and they found a disused stone quarry in a beautiful area. The price was relatively low, and they liked the idea of recycling the land, as it were. As it was, the quarry was an ugly blot on the landscape, and it wasn't productive any longer either. They consulted very...
All right, so here we go, right? This is a lot of content, right? It says that the site of the house... does anybody know what a quarry is? Any idea what a quarry is? A quarry is a place where they basically get rock, stones, right? Like marble flooring has to be taken from a quarry, like maybe Taroko Gorge or something like that. A lot of them in China. So it's a hole in the ground. It's a big hole where they're digging up rock and stone. So stone was being extracted nearby? No, stone was being extracted from that site itself, not nearby. Eliminate B. It was a completely unspoiled area? No, they said it was a blot on the land, which means that it was actually pretty ugly. Unspoiled? No, it means it was pretty spoiled. They did mention that it was inexpensive or something like that, so it has to be A. Right? The land was quite cheap.
Various architects and
we
looked at a number of designs before finally deciding on one. As I've said, it was a design for a sort of underground house, and it was built into the earth itself, with 2 stories. The north, east, and west sides were set in the earth, and only the sloping south-facing side was exposed to the light. That was made of a double layer of very strong glass.
It was a double layer of very strong glass. It was a double layer of very strong glass.
There were also photovoltaic tiles fixed to the top and bottom of this sloping wall. These are tiles that are designed to store energy from the sun. And the walls had a layer of foam around them too to increase the insulation.
Okay, and then they used it was a double layer of foam was used to increase instead of improve. Sorry, increase. Right, the insulation. I don't know why glass went away again. Good. So increase the insulation of the building. Continuing on.
Now, what is of interest to us about this project is the features which make the building energy efficient. Sunlight floods in through the glass wall, and to maximize it, there are lots of mirrors and windows inside the house.
There we go.
That helps to spread the light around.
Lecture about an experimental design for a house. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40.
All right, it will not stop. Come on, stop. I need someone. Who are you looking for? Wait. No. All right, I've had it with the sing.
Now listen carefully.
And generate some of the house's electricity as possible. In addition, the special tiles on the outside convert energy from the sun and generate of mirrors and windows inside the house. That helps to spread the light around. So that's the first thing. Light is utilized as fully as possible. In addition, the special tiles on the outside convert energy from the sun and generate some of the house's electricity. Now, what is of interest to us about this project is the features which make the building energy efficient. Sunlight floods in through the glass wall, and to maximize it, there are lots of mirrors and windows inside the house.
There are lots of mirrors, and number 35. Lots of mirrors and windows. I'm not going to write that. Anyways, okay, so mirrors and windows. Continuing on.
That helps to spread the light around. So that's the first thing. Light is utilized as fully as possible. In addition, the special tiles on the outside convert energy from the sun and generate some of the house's electricity. In fact, and it is possible that in future the house may even generate an electricity surplus, and that the owners will be able to sell some to the national grid.
Okay.
As well as...
So, they mentioned the word surplus, which means produce more of what? Electricity. Okay, I'm going to try to write that. Electricity. Mirrors and windows. Sorry. Good.
Is that, wherever possible, recycled materials have been used. For example, the floors are made of reclaimed wood, and the owners haven't bought a single item of new furniture.
Okay. Recycled wood was used for what? Floors. So they said what the floors were made of recycled wood. So, there you go.
They just kept what they already had.
Oh, sorry.
And then there's the system for dealing with the waste produced in the house. This is dealt with organically. It's purified by being filtered through reed beds, which have been planted for that purpose in the garden.
Okay, so what is organic? Waste. Or the system is organic.
So the occupants of the house won't pollute the land or use any damaging chemicals. It's true that the actual construction of the house was harmful to the environment, mainly because they had to use massive amounts of concrete, one of the biggest sources of carbon dioxide in manufacturing. And
Okay, so they used massive amounts, in other words, large quantities. Oops. Gee, that was fun. Use of massive amounts of concrete. There you go.
as you know, this is very damaging to the environment. In total, the house construction has released 70 tons of carbon dioxide into the air. Now that's a frightening thought. However, once the initial death...
I heard some of you, or I saw some of you writing 70 tons here, right? Within 70 tons. That was not the environmental debt. Here it says within, which you're actually looking for a time period, right?
has been cleared, and it's been calculated that this will only take 15 years, this underground house won't cost anything.
There we go. So, within what? 15 years. And you have to write 15 years, not just 15. So, within 15 years. And I think that's pretty legit.
Environmentally, I mean. Because, unlike ordinary houses, it is run in a way that is completely environmentally friendly. So, eco-housing like this is likely to become much more...
That is the end of section 4.
And that is the end of section 4. There we go. So there you go. Hopefully you'll do as well on the real test. What do you think was tricky about it? Not too much, right? They were going pretty slowly. There were a couple of tricks, vocabulary things, basically kind of saying a couple of different things that you might think are answers, right? So you have to wait for it. Not as tricky as part 3, though. But again, the subject matter is more difficult. So if you can, listen to a lot of lectures. Honestly, lectures like this are not even as difficult as a lot of real lectures, right, in more advanced classes. This level of lecture is kind of an introductory course lecture, right? It's nothing too challenging, but when you're under the kind of pressure that you would be taking the IELTS, you often don't do as well as you think. So the best thing to do is to get a lot of practice, a lot. Listen to TED Talks, listen to a lot of online university lectures if you can find them. If they have the quizzes as part of the online lectures, then find those and try to take them. Hopefully you'll find some good materials. If you know any place that's good, let me know. A lot of universities really do release a lot of their materials online. MIT does, as a matter of fact. Do you know? Yeah. Look up OpenCourseWare, MIT. Right? Academic Earth, Coursera. Right? There are a bunch of places where you can actually take courses online, even just for free. Let's just audit them. Anyways, we are done with the listening section. Yay! Go away, Fox Reader. Go away. Okay. Anyways, and now we are. We're not done with the Fox. Jeez, no, we're not done with the Fox Reader. We have to go back and look at the speaking module. Sorry about that. Here it is, the speaking module. I thought this was pretty funny. This sounds really out of date. Telephoning. Who still talks on the telephone? Seriously. Right? But it could be one of the things that you'll be talking about. And it's weird because they go from telephone to traveling. God knows why, right? But the first part, Section 1, Part 1 of the speaking section is just a warm-up. And it's good to get you guys used to things that are kind of strange, right? Like, I mean, how long can you talk about telephone calls? I don't know. There are actually worse topics, honestly, right? But, yeah, so one of the things that you're going to be doing in the speaking section is trying to lengthen your answers. Right? A lot of times people go, wow, right? Usually I have a lot to talk about, but when it comes to the IELTS speaking section, my mind just goes blank and I can't say too much. Practice. Practice making your answers long. Not weirdly long, but just long enough so that they kind of so they end naturally, right? So for each of these, right, this is part 1. Part 1 is usually after they ask your name and ask for your ID, right? They're going to be talking about something really pretty familiar to you. This one's a bit weird, but, you know, telephone calls. So how often do you make telephone calls? Weird, but hey, it happens. How long should you be talking about each of these questions? How many sentences? How many seconds? Yeah, 30 seconds, maybe 2 sentences, maybe 3, right? Not too simple. You're still trying to impress the examiner. So you're trying to use fairly impressive vocabulary. You're trying not to repeat yourself. You can pause for a little while, a little bit of pausing vocabulary. Now, what happens, everybody needs time to think, right? Everybody needs a little bit of time to think. It's better to think not so silently. It's better to think and use expressions that you can pause with, right? So if you're like, how often do you make telephone calls? And you're like, telephone calls? What? Right? So you can say that, but how do you kind of take up the time? If you really need time to think, what would you say? Yeah, that's a good question. That's an interesting question. Or, wow, I haven't made a telephone call in a while. I haven't used the phone in ages, right? And then you pause and then you start talking about it, right? And that kind of counts as part of your answer, right? Every single thing that you say counts as your answer, right? Of course it does. So you're going to try to even make your pausing to stop and think about your answer kind of impressive, right? And how do you do that? Well, let's go on to this. Let me see. Take a look at the back of the book. Well, not the back. That's a section, blah, blah, blah. Wait a minute, where'd it go? Yeah, it is the back. Here it is, IELTS speaking vocabulary. A lot of people worry about their vocabulary, right? You're like, oh man, I have to actually talk and I have to sound impressive. My vocabulary is not enough. I don't know enough words. Well, hopefully you're collecting words every day. You're learning new vocabulary. I hope. All right. If not, then try. Spend some time, learn some new vocabulary every day. Right. Keep a notebook. Right. But how do you improve your vocabulary? Especially for something like this, for the IELTS speaking. How do you do it? Oh, and by the way, like, what are they looking for? Because this is one of the this is what you're going to be judged on, right? They actually have a word for it. I think it's something like what do they call it? They're basically looking for lexical flexibility or something like, or lexical variety. Lexical means your vocabulary, the words that you know, right? So, how do you improve your vocabulary for this? We shall see. Watch this really fairly quick video from the British Council. And here's the script.
So, you've decided to take the IELTS exam. Great. It's the test that opens doors around the world. Here, we look at the criteria of lexical resource. This is one of 4 criteria on which you will be tested. Look for the other 3 criteria in other videos. Lexical resource focuses on the range of vocabulary a candidate uses. The wider the range, the better you will score. You will need to understand these factors to score well on the test. The ability to use vocabulary effectively, including the right collocation, that is, words naturally used together. For instance, lions roar. Lions do not shout. Alternatively, we make a phone call. We do not do a phone call. An awareness of connotation. This refers to the positive, neutral, or negative association some words have. For example, laid back, positive. Inactive, neutral. Lazy, negative. Slim, thin, skinny. The use of less common vocabulary or expressions. Many candidates memorize impressive lists of vocabulary, but often end up using them in the wrong way because they haven't understood them properly. To improve your vocabulary, we recommend these steps. Always try to learn new vocabulary when reading in English. Look out for new words. Seeing words in their context helps you learn the meaning, usage, and collocation. Online newspapers are a good resource. These can also help you keep up on the vocabulary of current affairs. Group new vocabulary into related subjects and learn these together, rather than making long lists of unrelated words. For example, make a list of words about sports. Using mind maps often helps with this. Learn more synonyms. These are words or expressions which have a similar meaning. Knowledge of synonyms will help with all parts of the IELTS test. Try using a thesaurus. Make small word cards with the word written on one side of the card and the translation and an example sentence on the other side. You can then test yourself. Practice is the key. Not to memorize, but to practice discussing different topics, weaving in the vocabulary you have learned. Research shows practice improves test scores. Don't give up if you can't find the right word. Keep trying to explain what you mean, even if it takes a little longer. This is called paraphrasing. You will get credit for this. IELTS speaking tests include general everyday topics. Specialist knowledge isn't expected. The topics are relevant to all of the 135 countries in which IELTS is used. For more information, please see the other speaking test videos, Fluency and Coherence, Grammatical Range and Accuracy, and Pronunciation.
I must say, the British Council makes really good videos. Hey, they're the ones who did the IELTS anyways. So, good information to know. And hopefully I can scroll down. Okay, so they call this lexical resource, right? Lexicon, your lexicon actually means your vocabulary. It's like the dictionary in your brain, right? And a lot of people worry about that. They're like, oh man, I don't know enough vocabulary. I'm not impressive enough. I don't know enough big words. Well, the problem is when people use really difficult words, they often use them incorrectly. Really. Because a lot of times people do not know these words in context. Really large words have very specific uses, right? They're uncommon for a reason. They're uncommon oftentimes because they're used in a way that you're quite unfamiliar with, right? Because you will need to see them again and again and again to really know the connotations. And that's what connotation means. Connotation means like what kind of feeling comes with this word, right? Is it a good feeling? Is it a bad feeling? Is it kind of neutral, right? Or is it even more academic, or is it something like a doctor would say, right? Is it something that that a professional person would say, right? Is it a bit too serious? Sometimes that happens, right? And oftentimes that's why people don't sound natural. So there's another thing that they'll judge you on, and this is also proper use of vocabulary. The word is collocation, right? Do you know what collocations are? They actually used a couple of example collocations, right? Like what? Lions roar, right? They don't shout, they don't bark, right? They don't just make noise, right? They roar, right? And for example, you do things like what other examples do they have? Yeah, we do not do phone calls. We do not play bowling. Right? We do not look at books, right? We read books, watch TV. We do not look at movies, look at the TV, right? We watch them. So these are examples of collocations, right? These are simple examples of collocations. Perform surgery, perform an operation, right? These are collocations. And it's not just one vocabulary word. These are vocabulary pairs or expressions, right? And this is kind of one of the more challenging ways that the examiner is going to kind of listen for and kind of make note of. And a lot of times people are really conservative. They're really pretty. They play it really safe, and they say things like very, really good. Right? But you'll actually have to stretch out a bit and get out of your comfort zone on speaking. right? So yeah, again, connotations. They said something really that hit a really good point. Where was it? Seeing words in their context helps you learn the meaning. Just making lists of words, looking them up in a dictionary, and maybe making some sentences isn't quite good enough to be able to learn a word. That's one of the big problems. Like, oh yeah, I really want to use this word when I'm speaking, but I don't fully know the connotations. That's kind of the problem with learning a language without practicing the language. Because when you practice the language, when you grow up with it, you have a chance. You have years, decades. You have a really long time to become familiar with the habits of the words. You talk to different people. You talk to people who speak more expressively sometimes, with more education, with more flair, right? You read books, more increasingly difficult, increasingly expressive books. You watch TV shows, movies, different series, and you get familiar, right? But if you're trying to cram this all into as one of your subjects, right, and you're really trying to learn English really quickly, you'll miss a lot of this, right? You will, and that's kind of what the situation that a lot of you are in now, right? Although some of you have been learning English your whole lives, some of you really like it, some of you are watching a lot of movies, have friends, really want to go travel, right? Do that, right? And you will do well on this. This is just one step, right? Again, learn more synonyms. There are many, many, many words that mean the same thing. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't learn them if you only know one good word. Because, again, a lot of words have different connotations. They have kind of deeper meanings. There are words that are similar. So, does anybody make flashcards? You know what a flashcard is? You can make them, you can buy them, you can have cards that have vocabulary on them, right? Or expressions or something like that, right? Use them, right? It's really, really good for studying. And one of the things that's great is some people really like to organize their flashcards, maybe alphabetically. You go through the A's, then you go through the B's. Well, life is not generally alphabetical. It's theme-based, it's subject-based, it's topic-based, right? If you're going to be having conversations with people, you kind of go from one topic, you stay on it for a little while, you go to another one, you start talking about that. Organize your vocabulary like that, right? Sometimes just throw all your vocabulary cards on the ground and then reorganize them. I did that one time to a student who was really angry. I'm serious. He was studying for, I think, the SATs, and he bought a pack of 1,000 essential SAT flashcards, and he kept them alphabetically, A's and B's. He's just learning them like that. And I'm like, hey, I'm going to do you a favor. And I just dumped it on the desk. He's like, what? I'm like, okay, sorry, man. But your work, your job, right? Get home, do whatever, spread these out on your floor, and organize them based on what they have in common, right? Kind of organize them based on how they're related to each other. It actually helped him a lot, thank God, because, man, he was upset for a while. Anyways, so there you go. Learn synonyms, group them together, right? Make word cards if you haven't started to do that. Label things, right? So, here we go. Yeah, and another thing is paraphrase, right? If you don't know this word yet, get to know it, because paraphrasing is really useful. It's one of the best things you can do, right? Especially, I don't teach IELTS reading here, but if you're reading, if you're trying to improve your reading skills, you need to paraphrase. Paraphrasing is when you're reading something itself in your own words, not translating, right? Tell yourself in your own words, in simpler English, what you just read. What did I just read, right? What does this paragraph mean, right? Imagine like turning around and explaining it to a to a native speaker 10-year-old who doesn't have the same vocabulary as you might, or definitely not the same vocabulary as the person who wrote the text, right? Explain it to them. Explain it to a 10-year-old, right, or younger, right? Just make it simple. This is the way that you process information and kind of make it easier to chew, right? So that's paraphrasing, really good. Get to find people you can practice with. Really, find friends. It doesn't even have to be an English speaker, right? Or it could be me, right? Not while I'm on vacation, but yeah, if you can find a classmate to talk to to kind of discuss topics with, right? Especially because the IELTS speaking is topics based, right? You're going to be talking for part 2 and part 3 about the same topic, basically how you feel about it or how you experienced it, and then going on to talking about it in general, right? It's going to be the same thing, right? If you can kind of organize your thoughts that way, right, and have practice doing it, do it. Anyways, let us practice. Let's do this. So, part 1. Part 1 is kind of the relaxed, I'm kind of warming up and trying to talk about stuff part of the IELTS, right? It's pretty quick. It's kind of like kind of saying something about, oftentimes it's stuff like, what do you like to do in your free time? What's your job? Are you a student? Where do you like to go, right, when you have time, or something like that, right? Really general, really simple conversation topics, right? In this case, it's how often do you make telephone calls? Who do you spend most time talking to on the telephone? When do you think you'll make a telephone call? Do you sometimes prefer to send text messages instead of telephoning? I thought this was hilarious, but it's a good way to practice something that's kind of strangely unfamiliar now. Do people still talk on the phone? Sometimes. Most of the time people text because it's a lot easier, right? But I want you to try this. I want you to find a partner, partner up, find someone, move to another desk, and get a partner to talk to. Now, if you can, find a friend, make a friend, introduce yourself, say hi. It looked dangerous, but I'm not. So yeah, make a friend, and we're gonna practice part 1. Doesn't have a partner yet. You guys? Oh, your partner went. Okay. Oh man. Okay. We almost never have an even number of people. It just never works out. My God. So yeah, if you can form a group of 3, that's cool. 3. Probably easier this way or this. Cool. Anyways. Yep, sometimes you're going to get a really awkward topic. Not awkward, just really like, how do I talk about this, right? So, for example, people hardly ever make telephone calls now. So, what happens when the examiner says, how often do you make telephone calls? Never, almost never. That's it. So you still have to lengthen your conversation, right? He might actually continue asking you about it because it's his job, but try to carry the conversation on. So this is your first challenge. You're going to be trying to do this, and for example, first sentence, first question: how often do you make telephone calls? Try to talk about that for 30 seconds. That's your challenge. Right? You're going to try to draw out this answer for 30 seconds without too much pausing, right? Without going, so how often do I make telephone calls? That's your question, huh? No, you're going to try to naturally answer this question, right? Without trying to repeat, without without pausing too much. So give it a try. And starting now. Board. Okay, if you haven't switched now, switch. Okay, you can stop. Good. All right, so one of the things is this is going to come up really fast. You sit down. Sometimes they're going to ask you a really easy warm-up questions. Again, sometimes they're going to ask you some question like this, right? So if you get hit by this question, like you can say, oh, well, I haven't thought about that question before, or wow, that's a tough question to answer, right? You can say things like that and then continue on, right? Well, that's a tough question to answer since a lot of people don't really talk on the phone as often as they used to because now we have chat and text messaging, right? So which is a lot more convenient for a lot of people, right? Or you can also talk about, well, now a lot of people don't have my phone number, but you can actually make internet calls, and they're free, right? You don't even have to think about what cellular plan you have and how much it will cost you when somebody calls you, right? Often. So you can start talking about these things. You can talk about recent advancements in technology. You can talk about what people are doing now, right? Leaving messages on each other's Facebook pages or Instagram or something, right? Instead of talking. So these are things that you can use to fill the question. You can basically wind up your answers like this, right? Finally, I'd like to say, I suppose that's my point. My answer to your question is I don't really talk on the phone that often anymore, right? You can use other things like this. I should add that. Another point would be that. I almost forgot to say. You can say stuff like that. This is great. You know what you just said is rubbish, so let me try to rephrase that. What I'm trying to say is that I don't spend a lot of time talking on the phone anymore, right? Or to put it another way, right? I really should have handed this into you, but it took up a lot of space. They told me to make fewer copies. Anyways, so, and you forgot a word. Oh man, I don't know the right way to put this. Sorry, I forgot the word I'm trying to think of in English, right? I'm not sure if that's the right way to put it, but yeah, internet phones, the things, VoIP, something like that, right? So these are different ways you can put it, right? It just buys time. It's not going to score you a lot of points, but it will actually maybe make your answers more fluent. Okay, so we're going to go on, right? Part 2, this is the good part. Oh, come back. Okay. Okay, part 2. This is a good and really, really common topic. All right. It starts out with describe a journey that you remember well. Like, geez, man, a journey that I remember well? Sometime that you traveled from one place to another? Well, the general topic is travel. All right. So you might want to focus on, maybe you're like, wow, geez, that's tough. It's really that I've taken so many journeys that it's really hard to describe one, right? But you will be talking about some place that you traveled, right? Again, this is the cue card, right? This is the topic card. So you're going to want to answer each of these questions, all right? Journey you remember well, where you went, how you traveled, why you went on that journey. Explain why you remember this journey well. Now, it's kind of tough because you have a minute. You have a minute to think of this, right? Again, that minute is critical. It's really, really important what you do with that minute. Because, and it's also really important to find that one journey that you remember well. Because the quicker you do that, you find that one event, that one time, right? And again, it's a lot easier to talk about something that you really did than to make up an answer. If you make up an answer, you'll get lost, right? I know some people can do it amazingly well, but really try to find an actual, real experience that you had, right? It might not be amazing. It might be incredible. It might be terrible. It might be an awful journey that you had. It might be a pretty bad experience. It could have been kind of boring, but you remember it well for some reason, right? So if it takes you a minute to come up to think of that one time that you had that one time you remember, it took you a minute. If it takes you 5 seconds, that's even better. Think of it really quickly. If you can think of it instantly, then you can start to think of answering the rest of these questions. And vocabulary you're going to be using, expressions you're going to be using, the specific times, right? And then you're going to think of ways that you're going to phrase this. So let's do this really quickly together. Where are you, Smartboard? Okay. What vocabulary, what expressions can you use to describe a journey? One time that you traveled. Describe a journey by car, plane, boat that you remember well. Any vocabulary, brainstorm, right? You don't have to think about this in order or anything. You don't have to think about words that have to do with a journey. Well, words that mean the same thing as a journey, good, but anything that is associated with this. Good. So you can kind of do it this way. If you kind of think in these terms, where are you? If you think in this way, right? You can think of the word think of the word journey, and you can kind of go, okay, exciting. Right. What else? Tiring. Anything else? And here's another thing, right? Remember to, and this is another kind of fluency vocabulary kind of thing. Do not confuse tiring with tired, exciting with excited. My wife does it all the time. It drives me nuts. It makes me feel like a really bad teacher because anyways, right? The journey was tiring. I was tired, right? It was exciting. It was an exciting experience. I felt excited, right? Anything else? Unforgettable. Excellent. What else? Yeah, excellent. Right? Once in a lifetime, a once in a lifetime experience, a once in a lifetime memory. Right? Anything else? Delightful. Okay, and these are ways to describe a journey, but what else? Well, any other things associated with a journey that you, methods, how you traveled by plane, train, boat, car, right? Why? Why you remember them? How about, yeah, reasons why you would remember them? Yeah, sure, it's once in a lifetime. It was unforgettable. It might have been tiring, exhausting. Yeah, reasons why. Reasons why you went there, how you went, right? Where? Anything else? Anything else you can associate with this journey? It was a journey, maybe it was an adventure, maybe it was a trip, it was a vacation, it was a holiday, right? You said you went, it was a destination, it was, what? It was a paradise, it was hell on earth, it was, what? How else would you describe it? Other things. Things that will help you talk about it. What else? Brainstorm. Think. What else? Yeah, for fun. For fun, you can even say it's recreational. For fun. Leisure. What else? So here's the thing, right? You're going to be thinking about these, and you're going to be thinking about them really quickly. Maybe not these, but you're going to need to say. And you have a minute to do this, and you have 2 minutes to talk, right? 2 minutes is a bit of time. It's quite a lot, right? So don't think about this. I'm going to go on to the next thing. And then you're going to make your own notes. So I want you to all make notes at the same time, so you don't have to wait for someone else to make the notes. So I'm going to give you a minute. Hold on. I'm going to give you a minute. Beginning. Now. And stop. Okay, the person on this side of the room will go first. So you have 2 minutes. 2 minutes to do this section. Ready, go. Okay, stop. That was 2 minutes. And switch. Oh. Stop. Okay. Just for fun, I'm going to write this. Very good. That's not an opinion. What I want you to do is I want you to do it again. But no matter what, whatever your answer is, do not use the word very and do not use the word good. Try that. So I want you to answer the question again, right? Starting with the person who went first. You can say the same things almost. You could refine your answer. You can use different, maybe more specific vocabulary, and you will avoid using the word very and avoid using the word good. And try to avoid starting your sentences with and. There. And very good. So, okay. Now do it again. You have 2 minutes with the starting with the person who spoke first. Ready, set, go. Okay, stop and switch. Go. And very good. Okay, stop. All right. So if you are running, if you are not running out of time, if 2 minutes is up and you have a lot of time, you already said your answers. Try to extend your answer. Try to go deeper into each of the questions. Right. Try to speak as much as you can without repeating yourself. Right. So let's try part 3. Part 3 goes into there are 2 different ones. There's daily travel, there's international travel. We'll do the international travel one, right? So one of you will be the examiner, and you're going to be asking this series of questions to try to keep the conversation going. Now, of course, there is no preparation for this, right? The only preparation is that you you basically figure that it has to do with the first, with part two, right? It's a continuation of part two, and it's an opinion on kind of on of general society. In this case, is what do you think people can learn from traveling to other countries, and why? Can travel make a positive difference to the economy of a country, and how? And do you think a society can benefit if its members have experience of traveling to other countries? What way? Right. So you're only going to ask the follow-up question once once your examinee has run out of things. So we don't have that much more time. I'm gonna give say about a minute each, just for fun. Okay. Okay, switch. That was a minute and a half. Okay, time is up. Not bad. Well done. All right, guys. Good. Heard some good answers. It was a bit short. You know, normally you'd have a couple of you have several minutes to do this. You have 3 to 4 minutes, right, to do this last section. All right. So a minute and a half. That was very good. Did you have a hard time not saying very good and starting your sentences with and? It's difficult, isn't it? It's difficult. A lot of times people tend to repeat themselves, especially when they're under stress. So try to practice not doing this. A lot of times it's a filler, just to say, oh, it was very good. Think your way around it. Think of other things you can say. Think of how you felt. Think of other ways to say good. Think of why. Instead of saying good, say why it was good without actually saying it was good. So that's pretty much it. I'm going to miss you guys. I will not be here for all of next month. Ooh, if you guys are still around and you come to IELTS Listening and Speaking, I will be back in September. I will be home. Well, I'll be in Massachusetts. I'll be in Boston. It'll be fun-ish. Not as fun as Taiwan. Boston's kind of boring. All right, anyways, see you guys. Thanks for coming. Hey, how's it going? A journey is usually a pretty involved trip, right? It would be a trip that's not just a commute, right? You have a really short trip, it's a commute. Maybe you have a shorter distance trip, it's pretty quick from one place to another. A journey involves more time. It's maybe you have to. Okay, for example, on Monday I'm going to be leaving at 7 a.m. We're leaving at 7 a.m. and we're going to be arriving in Boston approximately 25 hours later. That's the journey. Right? I'm going to go from by taxi to a port, harbor, and then take a boat someplace. Once you get to that place, you're going to transfer by car and then maybe rent a camel. Anyway, so yeah. So journeys are often involved, right? They're kind of they're sometimes long, sometimes arduous. We've looked at where they're tiring and yeah, it's pretty much the process of getting there, right? So oftentimes it's not just a place. Bye. Hope to see. Are you coming back in September? Aww. Oh, yours too. Good to know you. Bye. Yeah. So basically, it's not the actual destination; it's the process. Right? That's kind of what they're looking for. It can, like, well, I mean, okay, for example, right? You guys usually take the, I mean, you have a car or scooter yet? Think about the time when maybe before you'd have to. Have you ever taken a bus and then transferred, taken another bus, and then transferred, taken another bus, and then yeah. So even that counts as a journey, right? Maybe it doesn't have to be someplace